Homework. Anything out of the 10-7? We are turning the 10-7 in. Yes, sir. He's out of probably one of those professional development meetings for what he's going to do next year. Yes, sir. Scary. I'm going to times that over. With me there? What's another name for r? The square root of x squared plus y squared, because r squared is x squared plus y squared, right? What's another name for r sine? Y. Then they look like they solved things. I don't know how they solved it, but I'm going to get this guy to the other side. Equals 2 minus y. I'm going to go ahead and square it, so I get x squared plus y squared. Now when I square this side, though, what happens is I get 4 minus 4y e plus y squared, right? With me. Notice that y squared and that y squared cancel out, because if I got them on the same side, they'd be 0. Subtract the y squared. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, usually we like stuff solved for y. I don't know what they're solving for. I don't know if everything's on one side or whatever. Usually we like things solved for y, though, don't we? So x squared minus 4 equals negative 4. Or for y, so y is x squared minus 4 over negative 4, or they might have negative 1/4 x squared plus 1 equals y, or they might have everything on one side. I don't know. But I'm in x and y's. That's really the main part, right? Got rid of the r's and thetas. What did it have it solved for? Was it 61? It was all on one side. Okay. But we're all close. I mean, I'm pretty close on that. Any questions there? Okay, McKenna? Same one. Anybody else? I see another hand. Okay. Anything on the 8182 homework? Yes, Jazz. So therefore, it's still 3 standard deviations. Because once again, a standard deviation, it's as 1 each. Even though your data might have been only in here, but it took 3 to get over here, it still took 3 standard deviations to cover all of our data. Did that answer your question? Okay. Did we talk about interquartile range? I don't know if it's on the test or not. I remember that at one time. What is interquartile range? Q3 minus Q1. What is our range? Does anybody remember? Max minus min. Maybe some things that you might want on your notes, just so you can remember, or just recall it now. Benny and the Jet. Thank you. A little bit. Thank you. Hi, Meg. Yep. I always want you to use the S of X. On the test, that's what the one I'll be looking at. Technically, you could use either, but we're going to use the sample. Okay? Yes. We talked about it. It's your standard deviation squared. I think I said that, didn't I? I told you I didn't know what the hell it meant, but... Okay, we ready to rock today's lesson? Okay, let's turn in 10-7. 10-7. Just let you know, if you have any friends in my third or fourth period, their 10-7 isn't due today because I could not get through that extra little lesson, because I'll be getting through that today in their class. Does that make sense? So just by the way, I'm not trying to gyp you guys. You guys got the extra part. They haven't got the extra part yet, so hence why theirs is taking a little bit longer. I just want to make sure you guys understood fairness and all, you know. I like the shirt. Now, is Allison your sister? Oh, okay. That's the one I was talking about. Then I saw that she was a senior and you're a sophomore. I'm like, not a sophomore, junior, but okay, never mind then. Anyway, hot dog. Okay. Oh, Betty. Where are you at? There it is right there. We're going to start our notes off with some fun stuff. Oop, hold on. Okay. Oops, that's not what I needed. That's the one. So it's just easier to do this when I'm going to pop it up a little bit. Pump it up. You guys read the convenient sample, the self-selected sample, the systematic, and the random. I just didn't want to write them up there, but I can talk to you about them. Okay, so our first thing in 8-3 is talking about different type of sampling. So there's different ways to collect your data. A convenient sample. By the way, this is the thing that kind of hurts people on their test, is this stuff. It's because you're like, I don't know which kind it is, but just kind of think about it, adapt it. I'll give you examples of what it's kind of like. A convenient sample. Yesterday, when I did the shoe sizes of our class, that was a convenient sample. You guys were in my class. I asked you. That's a convenience. I stood outside of a library, talked to people. That's a convenience. Does that make sense? Just, it's really easy for you to get some information. Yes, no, maybe so. Sorry it's yellow, but that's, you guys don't want to see the other color. And you only have 2 more lessons after today, so. And then we're done. Done. You guys like that? Was that good? Yeah. Okay. A self-selected sample. A self-selected sample is, how many of you guys have been to a restaurant? It says, please give us your information or your thoughts on a survey card. You guys seen that before? That is a self-selected sample, meaning you're only getting information on people that decided to choose to do that survey, right? Or that information. Or when I think about Yelp or those type of things, like those restaurant things, that's a self-selected thing. They're personally getting on Yelp and giving you their recommendation, right? And I always get a little nervous about Yelp because it's either really good or really bad. So which one is it? Because you never see the in-betweens hardly, right? It's either somebody that's really excited about this place or somebody that had such a bad instance with it that they're going to share their opinion. Do you guys understand that's how it's self-selected, that nobody's asking you to do it? Well, they kind of are, but then you volunteer on your own basis to do it without anybody asking you in person, right? Systematic sample. So let's say I got all Westlake students and I alphabetized them. And I said, okay, I'm going to go through the list. Every 7th person, I'm going to have a survey or ask them questions. Does that make sense? It's a certain number. Let's say, how many of you guys know, like when you're doing a product, that they'll pick certain items off that product line, right, to check to see if they're up to code, right? So they pick every 50th to check to see if it's okay. Make sense what I'm saying by that? Ambry, you have Miss G-Ren, Karen, 4th period yesterday. A little stalkerish, I know. But I had to look through a roll because I was trying to remember to see if I could get a kid to come down and talk to me. And I saw your name. Thought I'd say howdy, but I didn't. Anyway. Sorry, I made you a little blushy there. Systematic sample. Oh, that's one way you just talked about. The best way you should do any sample is a random. Random's the best way. Because, like, for example, if I had Westlake students again and I was talking about something and I put numbers in a hat, randomly pick numbers out, right? That's the best way because you're totally getting all different types of people, right? Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions there? Anybody heard the word bias? Okay, what does bias mean, Stoner, since you're actually participating today? Yeah, okay. As somebody said, they might have a prejudice against the other side or something of that case, right? A bias is something that could skew your data. I'll be honest, guys, I can be a very biased grader. I used to, back in the day, look at grade everybody's test in the whole, right? Like, and if I liked them, I'd grade them better. And if I didn't, I'd grade them harder. And I finally noticed I was doing that. And I'm like, that's truly not fair. So the only page nowadays that I notice is their front page. That's the only time I see their name. And then I grade everybody's second page and everybody's third page and so forth. Because I noticed I was starting to have bias in how I was grading. Like a person had the same work and I'm like, that's -1. Oh, that's -4. Yeah, I wasn't very good. So, but I don't do that anymore because I don't know who I am as I'm grading. I only know the front page. And a lot of times the front page is the easiest page, so it's still easy to grade. But I noticed I was having bias in things. Our newspapers, they might be biased in Utah because one is a very conservative newspaper. The Deseret News is a little bit more conservative, and the Salt Lake Tribune is a little bit more liberal, which is completely fine. But they could be biased in a way like, let's say they have something about, I don't know. Anyway, they could have something that they might not agree with, so it might not be in the newspaper, right? That could be a biased newspaper now, or that newspaper is a demographic to a specific people, right? There's different kinds of newspapers out there. Does everybody understand what I'm trying to talk about there? Everything could have a little bit of bias. So, with that being said, though, let's scroll down and let's see if we can answer these questions. Okay. All right, here we go. It says to survey eating habits of a community, employees of a local television station interview people visiting a food court in the mall. What sampling method are they using? It's convenient, right? They go to the mall, they're picking people in that area. Could it be biased? If they're talking about their goal is to get eating habits. Where are they at? Probably not that's probably dictating somebody's eating habits because they're in the mall at a food court, right? They might not be getting the healthy person that's carrying their sack lunch with cucumbers and, whatever. You get what I'm saying by that, okay? Yes, it does have a bias. Okay. A supermarket wants to find the percent of shoppers who use coupons. A manager interviews every shopper entering the greeting card aisle. That's once again a convenience thing, right? Okay, because it's just him maybe standing in there and it's anybody that comes down that. Is that a good representation of everybody, you think? Maybe not, because maybe they're just there for the greeting card, right? Maybe there's not a lot of coupons for greeting cards. So yeah. Maintenance crew wants to estimate how many 3,000 air filters in a 30,000 office building need replacing, so the crew examines 5 filters chosen at random on each floor. Could be a little of both, okay, because it examines 5 filters. Does it tell us how they're specifically picking those filters? So it could be random. Okay, does that make sense? I could see why it's systematic because it says 5, but those are just, I'm going to go 5 on each floor. Okay, so that's more of a random sampling. Everybody kind of get what we're doing here? Does that have bias, you think? Well, I think that's pretty straight up good. I think that's a pretty good idea. Okay, any questions? Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is different types of studies. How do we collect our data? Now we have the different types of samples we're doing, but how are we getting our data? One is an observational study. What I always think about this is, you know, the one-sided glass, and they like have a room and they're having people watch those people in the room. You know what I mean? See how they play with certain toys or things like that. And they don't really know that you're watching them. That would be an observational study. So just like for example, or me sitting here right now, just watching you guys, not knowing that I'm actually recording data on you, right? You guys would not know. That sounds a little creeperish, but you get what I'm saying. Like, did you pass, by the way, Miss Dallin? He kills me. He would not let other people do that. Anyway, onward. Still a nice guy. Okay, so observational study, kind of just watching and observing what's happening without them knowing what's going on, right? A controlled experiment. That's kind of like when I got paid to do experimental drugs for my wisdom teeth. Yeah, 500 bones. It was nice. I got to sit in a room for 8 hours, eat pudding, watch movies. I didn't have any pain or swelling. I was eating pizza that night. It was awesome. Now, could I have been on the placebo and I just thought I had the pills? Yeah, that's a controlled group, right? Where they put some people on the special medicine and some people aren't, and then they see how they react, right? So the only person that knows is the person that's running the experiment. Does that make sense? I also got to wear a pager for a week. Back in 1997, guys, I was a teenager with a pager. You guys even know what a pager is? So no, it's not a phone. A pager is like this little square thing you put on your belt, right? And then all of a sudden it'd beep, 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 and it'd put a phone number on it, and you'd have to call that person back. Hey, you paged me? It's like prior to cell phones. Well, cell phones were around, but they were just hell expensive to have. One time, me and my cousin got into my uncle's car phone, like it was attached in his car. We racked up $200 in 10 minutes. It was really expensive to call on those things. We called our grandma. It was fun. His dad wasn't too happy. Anyway, awesome. But pagers, guys, it was the legit thing. And if you were a doctor, you always had a pager, especially if you were on call or something. And then you'd go 911 and say that's an emergency if it was 911. Call me fast. I wore it for a week. I thought it was bad A. The first phone was in my class was in the year 2000. And one girl had it. I loved playing Snake on that thing. Law enforcement, that's what the class was. Now it's like only one person doesn't have a phone. So interesting in 19 years. I remember my uncle also having the brick cell phone. Like it was like the freaking brick. Those were funny. My other friend had a cell phone in their car that they could only use if they get in an accident. Because it was so expensive to use. The times and days, you guys are going to be saying, well, back in the day when I only had 7 gigs or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what the heck I just said. Okay. Survey. A survey is just a random questions, right? People ask. That's how they're getting their data, is by question and answering. Any questions there? Pretty simple, right? That's 8-3. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? That's it for 8.3. 8-4. So the main thing you guys need to understand is the difference between sampling and what was the other one called? Experiments, right? The different type of experiments that they had. Observational, controlled, survey. With me? Okay. 8.4 was the normal curve. That's what I was kind of talking about yesterday. Remember how I talked about you guys getting graded on the curve? The normal curve. Okay. Now, what did I talk to you? Did you guys' information, did we have 2 standard deviations to cover all of your data? Was that what it was? You remember how I said that could be possible, but how often is it usually? 3. Let me explain why. Here's what a normal curve is. So first off, this is your mean, just like we talked about yesterday. And then we had standard deviations. We had your first standard deviation, your second standard deviation, and then your third standard deviation. Aloha! It just shows me that you checked in. Okay, now, so we'll call this one standard. I'm just going to do the sigma. And then this would be 2 sigmas, right? This would be 3 sigmas. You remember how I told you I've only seen 4 standard deviations only once in my career of doing stuff, randomly picking sampling? I don't know if you guys remember me telling you that, but I've only seen it once. Okay? I've seen 2 a lot. I've seen 3 often. 3 is mostly your answer. Okay, and then here's the reasoning. Out of 1 standard deviation, that covers 68% of our data. If you fall within 1 standard deviation, you're 68% of our data. You will want to memorize these charts that I'm doing. If you are within 2 standard deviations, you're 95%. So for us, with only covering 2 standard deviations, okay, 95% of your data normally falls within 95%, but for us it was 100. So is that really that far off? No. Make sense? 3 standard deviations though, here's the kicker, this is the one why this is usually it, 99.7% of your data falls within 3 standard deviations. So that's why most of the time you're going to be within 3 standard deviations of the mean. It's because 99.7%. How much does that mean that you might be outside of it? 0.3%. Is that very likely? No, and that makes sense why I haven't seen a 4 standard deviation very often. It's very, very rare, right? It's like almost hitting the jackpot. That's your percentages. Okay, does that make sense why that happens in those cases? Now a little bit more that we talked about last time on how standard deviations cover your data. Okay, with that being said though, you also want to know, okay, if this is 68%, that's meaning this right here. That area covers 68%, just that little first standard deviation. So if that's the case, it is a symmetrical type unit here. How much is this then? That's 34%. That first, if 1 standard deviation to the right covers 34% of our data. 1 standard deviation to the left covers 34% of our data, because together 1 standard deviation covers 68%. Does that make sense how I did that? I just cut it in half. So how much is between 68 and 95? What's the extra percentage? 27%? Agreed? So what is this section going to be represented by? 13.5, because that's half of the 27, right? Half of the 27 is 13.5. Is everybody understanding what I'm doing here? Benny, am I doing this right? Is that how you were taught? Have you guys did this lesson? Have you guys taken the test yet? Next time. Next week is your guys' test on Thursday. Happy Thursday, remember. Won't be there that day. But you guys can put a +1 on Thursday if you wear it. Now you gotta be honest. None of that cheap crap that you have a backpack or some crap like that. Right? Not pulling out a shirt and put it on right as soon as you walk in class either. That pisses me off. Okay, so what's the difference between 95 and 99.9? 2.7. So what's this area? 2.35. Excuse me, 4.7. So 2.35. I apologize. This one's 2.35. So how much is left over for the fourth standard deviation? 0.3. So each of those get 0.15. Now, how is that useful? Well, there's a couple ways that we could use this data. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you an example. Hey, howdy doody. You're a pauper. She's a pauper. What's up?